Con música y llanto, pero también indignados, los padres de Debanhi sepultaron a su hija este sábado en Galeana, Nuevo León. Temprano, el cortejo fúnebre salió hacia la Laguna de Labradores, su pueblo, donde realizaron una misa de cuerpo presente.
Venimos a hablar también por Debanhi, porque esto no fue un accidente.
April 8th, 2022. A dark stretch of the highway in Nuevo León, Mexico. A single teenage girl stands alone on the side of the road in the dead of night. She's 18. She's wearing a skirt, high-top sneakers, and a crop top. Her arms are crossed, and her expression, a haunting mixture of fear and defiance. A camera clicks. The rideshare driver takes one final photo before speeding off into the darkness. Days later, that very image will be broadcast across every major news channel in Mexico. The last known sighting of Debanhi Susana Escobar. Just 13 days later, her body would be found floating in the abandoned cistern of a roadside motel, 20 feet from where she was last seen. This is not just the story of one girl's disappearance. It's a story of silence, of justice denied, and of a country's broken promise to protect its daughters. This is the case of Debanhi Escobar. Debanhi Susana Escobar. Bazaldua was not just another face in the crowd. She was bold, independent. A law student with dreams of making a difference in a country where injustice too often walks free. Friends described her as intelligent and outspoken. Her father, Mario Escobar, called her his brave girl, someone who wasn't afraid to challenge the world. But like thousands of women in Mexico, Debanhi lived in a country plagued by femicide. April 8, 2022, Debanhi headed out to a party with two friends in Escobedo, Nuevo León. The three girls had been close, but something shifted that night. Witnesses later said an argument broke out. For reasons still unclear, the two friends called a trusted rideshare driver, a contact they knew, to take Debanhi home, but she never made it. At around 4:20 a.m., the driver dropped Debanhi off, not at her house, not at a friend's, but in the middle of the highway, alone. That chilling photo he snapped of Debanhi standing on the roadside would haunt the nation. In that moment, she wasn't just a girl on the highway, she was a warning. The man who took that photo, Juan David Cuellar, the driver who claimed Debanhi wasn't in her senses and that he couldn't safely take her home. But suspicions arose fast. Why would a driver abandon an 18-year-old girl at night? Why take a picture at all? He told police he dropped her near a transportation company and left. Juan's story changed multiple times, first saying she got out voluntarily, then saying she acted aggressive. He later admitted to trying to touch her breasts, a confession that should have been enough for immediate arrest. But instead, he walked free. Debanhi's parents filed a missing persons report immediately, but from the start, law enforcement seemed disinterested. Surveillance footage from the area wasn't collected for days. Witnesses weren't interviewed properly, and officials floated wild theories, claiming she might have run away, or worse, been on drugs. Her father, Mario, went on national TV. "We're doing the police's job for them," he said. For 12 agonizing days, Debanhi's family searched. They begged for answers. They retraced her last steps. They stood outside the very hotel where she was later found and were told there was nothing to see. But they knew, deep down, they knew she was close. Her parents, Mario and Dolores, appeared on every major news network in Mexico, pleading, crying, searching. Her father stood before reporters with rage in his eyes. "My daughter is not a statistic. She is not a number. We will find her, dead or alive." Social media exploded. The haunting highway photo of Debanhi, arms crossed, alone at night, sparked outrage. Women across Mexico took to the streets. They held signs that read, "Donde está Debanhi? Where is Debanhi?" For a brief moment, the nation was united, but still, there was no trace, no clear CCTV footage, no phone signals, no leads. On April 21st, 13 days after she vanished, search teams returned to the Nueva Castilla motel. It was the 4th time that area had been searched, the 4th time. That's when they found her, floating inside a 4-meter-deep underground water tank in an abandoned cistern near the back of the property. Her clothes matched the viral photo. Her body was bruised, her face unrecognizable, and her parents, who had stood in that very same motel days before, broke. "They lied to us," her father said. "She was here the entire time." The first official autopsy claimed Debanhi had died by accidental drowning. It was a conclusion that sparked immediate backlash. How could a girl who was found with deep cranial injuries have simply fallen in? Debanhi's father demanded a second, independent autopsy. What it revealed was chilling. No signs of drowning, multiple blunt force injuries to the head, signs of sexual aggression. The report concluded she was likely killed before her body entered the water. And yet, police refused to reclassify her death as a homicide. The public had one word for it: cover-up. Then came the tapes. Surveillance footage emerged from inside the Nueva Castilla motel. In it, Debanhi is seen stumbling alone, clearly in distress, near the premises. She enters the lobby. Minutes later, she disappears behind a hallway, never to be seen again. But that footage raised more questions than answers. Why wasn't it released earlier? Why did police insist there was nothing of value at the motel? Why did search teams find nothing until the cameras were rolling? Critics began pointing fingers at the motel, at law enforcement, even at officials in Nuevo Leon's government. The people were no longer asking what happened to Debanhi. They were asking who's hiding what. The driver, Juan David, remained free. No arrest, no formal charges. Hotel staff were interviewed, but inconsistently. No forensic sweep was conducted at the scene. Surveillance gaps remained unexplained. And then, the prosecutor overseeing the case was quietly removed. Rumors swirled. Corruption, political pressure, cartel involvement. Some whispered that Debanhi had seen or heard something she shouldn't have. But for all the rumors, one truth stood tall. Someone was protecting someone. And Debanhi, she was no longer just a daughter. She had become a symbol of a justice system that too often fails women, and of a silence too loud to ignore. In the days following her death, thousands took to the streets across Mexico. In Mexico City, women marched holding portraits of Debanhi, shouting her name in unison. Her case sparked protests against gender violence, corruption, and impunity. The president of Mexico even commented, promising reform, transparency, justice. But Debanhi's father wasn't impressed. "They're only listening because of the cameras," he said. He launched his own investigation, worked with independent forensic experts, traveled city to city demanding evidence. He became the loudest voice in a country that had ignored its daughters for far too long. Debanhi Escobar should be alive. She should be in law school, sitting in a lecture hall, changing the world she was born into. Instead, she became a headline, a hashtag, a face on a protest sign. But she also became something more, a reckoning, a mirror to a broken system. Her death was not an accident, her life was not disposable, and her silence, it speaks for millions. If this story moved you, if Debanhi's voice deserves to be heard, share it. Speak up. Let justice ring louder than silence. Subscribe to True Crime Vault for more real cases that demand answers. Next week, we unfold every layer of another heartbreaking case, from the first crack in the silence to the final scream for justice.